Alright, so I'm going to try to do this as fast as possible. This is a frontal view of my gait. Again, as I mentioned before, I have right side, well, bilateral tibial torsion, internal tibial torsion. The right is more than the left. So I'm going to try to speed this up. This is a slow-mo video. I'm going to try to make it look as normal speed as possible. Get a glimpse. So again, I was laughing because they were making fun of me, talking about I look like I was catwalking. All right, so let's go to heel strike. So let's look at the right since that's the one where I put sticky dots on. So here is where you would expect some calcaneal inversion or supination, and during loading response or foot flat, you expect some calcaneal eversion at the subtalar joint. So I don't know if you can tell, that has a little bit of eversion. And then as I move to, so there's mid stance, there's heel off and toe off. You see where I jump into my concentric plantar flexion, I'm going to supinate the foot, and you'll see some calcaneal inversion. And then as I move into swing, you'll see eversion to come back to neutral. So here that is again. So there's my supinated foot. So I want a supinated foot for propulsion because that makes my foot a rigid lever. And supinated, supinated, then everting, everting, everting back to neutral during swing. I'm going to supinate again just before heel strike. There it is. A little bit more tibial internal rotation than normal. That's okay. All right. And then let's look from the front view or anterior view. So heel strike, supination, and then not so obvious eversion. And during heel off, so we're looking at my right side, heel off, there's my supination. And as I go into swing, toe off, you see I'm going from a supinated position to I everted to bring it back to neutral. And then just before heel strike, my subtalar joint will invert again at initial contact or heel strike. Okay, let's look at the knee. So during mid stance is where you see the most varus moment. So there's my right mid stance, and if I took a screenshot of that and then tried to draw an angle, I don't need any of those fancy apps people try to get. I don't care about that. So boom, and then midline of tib fib. So my distal arm is going to the midline between the medial and lateral malleolus, and that is obviously a varus moment, right? And before you could even, hopefully, without even drawing lines, you can kind of see that the distal tib fib is more medial than the knee joint. So where that sticky dot is and where that sticky dot is, if you draw a straight line down, that's lateral to the anterior aspect of midline between the medial malleolus and the lateral malleolus. All right, let's keep going. All right, and then let's look at the left. So left heel strike, foot flat, looks pretty normal. And let's get the mid stance. So mid stance, you can already see that the midline of the knee looks much more stacked. Whoa, sorry. The midline of the knee looks much more stacked on top of the tib fib. It's not as varused, maybe a little bit more varused, but not as varused as the right. Okay, so these dots are a little bit closer to each other now. Okay, and there you can already see the internal tibial rotation, and on my left swing, I see a little bit a abduction of the forefoot. And then a deduction on the right heel off to toe off. See that supination, knee flexion. So again, with internal tibial torsion, you get the knee wanting to stay in the sagittal plane. So you can see right there that the knee wants to stay facing anterior. And then the midline of tib fib, or the medial lateral malleolus, kind of wants to fall more medial to the knee. Okay, so I'm just going to play the rest of this so you can kind of see yourself. You can also see at the hip, let's back it up, a little bit of a hip drop. So here's during left initial contact, loading response, and during my right swing, so right when my right leg comes up off the ground, you see that hip drop. And if that's not obvious, let's take a screenshot right there. And if I drew on top of that, let's use yellow. So if you look at where my ASIS on the left should be, ASIS on the right, you can, actually it's probably a little bit lower than that. And I drew a line through there. Obviously that's a right hip drop, okay? Is that pathological? No, I'm just walking lazy. So my left glute med is not compensating for my right hip drop.